Exactly, you were saying the corporate nature of it. I mean, when Occupy was kind of blossoming on Twitter, there was that issue where the trending topic was, it wasn't on there, but it was obviously, you know, the volume was there. So, I mean, there's obviously that like element of the silencing that you don't get on the street.
Absolutely. I was. One of the funny things is that as people are coming back to ACT UP and ACT UP is sort of resurging again, I think we'll see what happens. But people were having all of these conversations on Facebook, and someone posted something about, well, maybe ACT UP should actually hook up with Anonymous. And actually, it was my boyfriend who posted, hello, Anonymous is considered a terrorist organization by the US government. You know, remember the Patriot Act, remember that Facebook is not the place to have these conversations. You know, so part of it now is that although the technology is very seductive and the social media is very seductive, but you know, we have to ultimately look at who controls this. You know, who controls this and who has access to what now. So, and now with, you know, the legislation, with the Patriot Act that they, you know, is still there, I mean, we can see a lot of, you know, ACT UP was considered a terrorist organization. And probably, you know, if we work and do stuff, it will be a terrorist organization again, which means that we're working now in a very, very different context than we did before. You know, before we were considered a nuisance or something like that. But now, I mean, with the legislation, it becomes very different.
I'm very, I need to go on the record as being, before I say what I'm about to say, as being very pro speaking to the beast in its own language, whatever that means. So I have a lot of ideas about media technologies, and I think there's a lot to be explored with the use of them from an activist perspective that has not been touched on yet. But as a Jew, I will say that and Robert, please don't laugh at me again. If you were to dye every fountain in Washington, D.C. red, it would have a very different effect than hundreds of thousands or even millions of people seeing a fountain that's red in a handheld device. There's something biblical, threatening, terrifying, ubiquitous in a whole different way. And I also feel that there's something about, if everyone here is a writer in some way. If you've ever written something and you know it seems completely, totally, 100% there when you're working on the screen, and then you print it out and you read it and you notice all these things about it, in a way, there's something metaphysical about that screen, and there's something, it changes radically when you print it in its actual, when you're holding in your hand. And I think it's important to, anyone who's ever discovered that while they're writing something, should translate that lesson into how things function in the real world.
Okay. I'm so glad you said that. I have a comment and a question for you. I think when we talk about social media, we're also talking about opting in versus in your face. And that's important for us to think about moving forward. Because when we're organizing in social media, we're including, you know, the trending topics, and we're all on the same page, and great, now we all know where to go. But the difference is we've opted into that conversation. Once we go out on the street, now we're in your face, so the fountain is red, and someone who walks by sees it, who we don't even know who they are or what their intended reaction will be. So my question, thank you for opening the door, how can we use these new medias? Because I'm sitting here thinking, my history with group material, we should be buying banner ads. Like, who's buying banner ads? And who are we putting them in front of? And how are we doing our media buys? And where are we getting our money to do that? So, do you have some thoughts on that?
I was thinking we should use the NYU computer labs that developed Foursquare and reverse engineer recognition software, so we can pick people's phone contact lists as they walk through our gallery and use them in ways that we want to use them.
So we push it out. Let's get together. I'm ready. Let's collaborate.
No, but there was a good, I mean, like there's a, Malcolm Gladwell wrote an article in the New Yorker about why Twitter could not have been used to launch civil disobedience movements and talk about the civil rights movement specifically and about the sort of spark ones. I think it's too facile to throw I'm optimistic in the way you are, to throw that form out and just say it's not valuable. But I do think it does require an assessment about kind of the difference between, eye contact and the rest of it. And I think, speaking personally in terms of the group, but like my understanding of the AIDS crisis and emotional relationship with much of this work is irrevocably bonded to the eye contact and outrage I've shared with the people I'm sitting on the stage with. And with some of you that I've been arrested in the street with and doing since. So the experiential part of it is something that can't be underestimated in terms of how any kind of activist thing is going to move forward, whether it uses social media or not. There's electricity, I think, in the non-virtual world still, usually.
I think also in New York City, because I did have some conversations with some of the people in the Arts and Culture Working Group, New York is such a different case, but we're here and I'm a New Yorker. New Yorkers really use the streets. We use the streets. We actually do. They're real places. And no matter how much, I don't know how I lived without my phone, but people in New York use the streets and they pay attention to the things that are in them. And there's an opportunity that Occupy hasn't seized with regard to that, because Occupy is very concerned with other types of social experiments other than communication within the capitalist confines. So I really do appreciate that, but I also feel like there's tons of people in New York, friends who are very sophisticated and political, who want to know what's going on, who say, I have no idea what Occupy is doing. I know that they're meeting 24 hours a day, every day of the week. I know how much work they're doing. What's missing is the New Yorker who's going to get a bagel doesn't know what they're doing. So I sort of feel like you can never forget the level, the importance of communication in the public sphere. And I think that if you think of new media as a tool towards organizing that's multi-pronged, it actually, I'm fully with it. I just don't think it's been integrated.
Well, yeah, and like you're saying, I don't think that it's an issue of the platform itself, but more that